Iowa Democrats are hosting the 2020 presidential hopefuls today. Most of the Democratic field is in the state this weekend for the Polk County Steak Fry. 10 of the contenders also showed up for an Iowa forum on gay rights. That was Friday night. They made their pitches to LGBTQ voters in the nation's first caucus state. Political correspondent Ed O'Keefe is in Iowa.
Back when some Democrats were talking about civil unions, I was performing marriages in 2004 at San Francisco City Hall.
I remember serving under Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And I also remember the weight lifted when that was no longer a threat to my career.
Democratic presidential candidates Friday night took turns explaining how they'd protect gay, lesbian, and transgender rights.
Donald Trump has a strategy. He's got a plan. His strategy is turn people against people.
Despite having pushed then-President Obama to support same-sex marriage, former Vice President Joe Biden had to strongly defend his gay rights record amid questions of his past work with Republicans.
You have also praised Vice President Mike Pence as a decent guy.
A lovely person. I came out on Meet the Press in support of gay marriage before anybody else did nationally. I didn't have to evolve.
The forum came as candidates are once again focused on winning over Iowa voters, with the caucus here only about 130 days away.
I'm not going to change who I am. You're going to get exactly what I am.
And we're going to win. Yeah. So are you.
One candidate doubling down in Iowa is California Senator Kamala Harris, who, despite slipping back in polls here, now says she's determined to finish in the top 3.
So I'm moving here.
It can be frustrating, frankly, to have to make these decisions that feel like a trade-off. But I plan on spending as much time as I can here.
In order to win, Harris has to convince voters like John Elphick. He said his 3 favorite candidates are Biden, Harris, and Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren.
It's a little harder this time because there's so many candidates.
In one night, Elphick attended a Harris rally and an event held by Warren. Having seen both of them now in one night, did your opinions change at all?
I like them both.
So you're still torn?
I'm still torn, yeah.
And CBS News political correspondent Ed O'Keefe joins us now from the Steak Fry. Ed, give us a scene setter. It's going to be an interesting day. What are you expecting to see today at the Steak Fry?
It sure is, Kenneth. Among other things, we're expected to see thousands of slabs of meat. They are grilling thousands of steaks right now for the thousands of people who will be here today. One of the organizers told us they had to order at least 8,000 steaks. They're also grilling chicken. There are vegan options for people today. The whole point of this, and this is something that's been going on in Iowa for decades, is for the presidential candidates to essentially show their mettle, show what they're made of here in Iowa. Across this large park here in Des Moines, each campaign's been designated a spot where they were supposed to gather this morning, and then they're going to march in here to the main corridor, and each of the candidates will speak later. So, for example, right now, the Colorado Senator Michael Bennet has just stepped up to a grill to grill some of the steaks, and this is the size of his contingent. Others will have larger ones, some might have smaller ones, but the whole point of this today is to essentially just, demonstrate that they have some support and give a speech and hope that they can find some more supporters with about 130 days left to go until the caucus. Kenneth, go ahead and ask a question, and we're going to keep walking.
Well, Ed, you just mentioned those Iowa caucuses less than 5 months away. I'm wondering, do these middle-tier candidates, do you think, have an opening to make inroads with voters there? And how important, really, in your perspective, is today's event for them?
Hugely important for someone like Bennett, for example, because he's got to press the flesh. He's got to find a way to convince people to support him. And so they understand that this is an opportunity, really, to potentially introduce himself to at least 12,000 people who have RSVP'd to be here today. Keep an eye this weekend and in the coming weeks on people like Kamala Harris, for example, who now sits in the single digits and told us this past week that she's now committed to placing at least 3rd here in the Iowa caucuses and conceded that she's basically got to move to the state, at least in the month of October, in order to make that happen, and at the expense of campaigning in all the other early primary states.
And Ed, I want to take you back to that LGBTQ forum last night. A bunch of candidates were there. They showed up for it. At that event Friday night, Joe Biden said that he was an early supporter of gay rights. I'm wondering what kind of reaction that comment got.
Well, it was actually a pretty contentious appearance for Biden because, yes, remember, back during the Obama administration, he was the one that pushed President Obama to embrace same-sex marriage and got a lot of credit for doing so. Also was part of a lot of the administration's push to expand gay rights through at least executive actions. But he got knocked around by the moderator a bit for, among other things, saying at some point in the last few years that Vice President Pence, a big opponent of gay rights, is a good guy. So it was a bit of a hostile exchange for him, but he was trying to make the point, look, I've always been on your side. Your criticism is misplaced. For others, it was, again, an opportunity for them to meet thousands of people in attendance and make the point that they are perhaps stronger on the issue.
Ed, I want to switch gears and ask you about another 2020 race. Massachusetts Congressman Joe Kennedy, he announced a primary challenge to Democratic Senator Ed Markey. That was on Saturday. How does he plan to take on the senator?
That's right. You know, if today here in Iowa is sort of the biggest event in Democratic politics, what Joe Kennedy pulled off this morning in Boston is a close second. The grandson of Robert F. Kennedy, whose father served in Congress for Massachusetts, now challenging Ed Markey, who serves alongside Elizabeth Warren in the Senate, decided that now's the time to do this. He doesn't want to wait. He's facing a lot of criticism from establishment leaders in Massachusetts that he should try to do this and essentially force an expensive primary in his state at a time when Warren may be on the verge of winning the nomination. But it'll be an interesting one to watch. And it's a sign also, I think, of the sort of pent-up ambition and frustration of a lot of members of the House who want to get out of there, get into higher office, and maybe set themselves up to, for example, perhaps one day show up at an event like this as presidential candidates.
All right. Well, Ed, we'll be checking back in with you later today. Ed, thanks for your time.